What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the podcast, the world's okayest physical therapist podcast. I am your host, Dr. H. Today, we'll be delving into episode 4 of the inflammation series. But first, I want to say thank you guys so much for being here. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, as I'm trying to get as much of my experience and knowledge out to you guys as possible so you can make better informed decisions, better conversations with your healthcare providers, and you can all figure out how to navigate this Byzantine, labyrinthine system we call the American healthcare system. And then when it comes time to push or vote or hear candidates talking about change, you can have an informed understanding of how and why what they're saying makes sense or doesn't make sense. And you can advocate for change that would be effective. Don't forget to check out the website. We have a shop now, which is awesome. Still working on the app. We have like 5 different AI tools that we're now using to try and make this thing a reality. The bad news is that a specific company that will remain nameless has thwarted us at every turn and just seems like they're against the idea of people getting healthier. So that's unfortunate. Also, don't forget to check out 10,000 as they gave me a 15% off code for you all. And you can see that in the description below if you're looking for new shorts, pants, or shirts in the fitness industry, sort of like athleisure fitness industry. Now, without further ado, let's get on to episode 4, which is the reconnecting of the fascia and the flow. Today, what we're going to talk about is how inflammation actually changes the fascia and how techniques like massage, instrument-assisted work, massage and soft tissue, let's just say that, soft tissue mobilization and or massage, instrument-assisted work, cupping, and even gentle movement can help restore the tissue's gliding communication with the nervous system. And hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll understand why soft tissue mobilization isn't just about breaking up knots, it's about improving how the body feels, functions, and communicates. So the first thing we have to address is what is fascia? And fascia is the continuous web of connective tissue that surrounds and connects muscles, nerves, organs, and cells. Cells have ability to connect to each other. They have little anchors that they will anchor through their cell membranes into each other in order to have connections. In fact, some cells even share intracellular fluid in order to communicate better. But it's also an extracellular matrix. So you have anchors that cells share side to side, and you also have an extracellular matrix that's been laid down independent to them that they connect to. And a really good example of this is if you're holding hands with your friend, let's say you're in kindergarten, you're holding hands to your friend next to you, and you're all making a giant chain of people holding hands, you can sense the tension of people being pulled one way or the other. And if you're doing that really cool science experiment where one person puts their hand on the Tesla coil or whatever, and it causes a shock to all jump down your hands, you all receive that shock together. You're all connected. You're all able to communicate on an electro level through each other. If one person touches something electric, the rest of you feel it. If the person next to you is cold, you can feel it on their hand. If they're warm, you can feel it on their hand. If they're sweaty, you can tell. There's a lot of things you can tell from just holding the hand of the person next to you. But that's not really the best way to have structure, is it? Because if the person next to you falls while holding your hand, they might take you down with them. There's a chance you might catch them and pull them up, but there's a chance that you're going down with them. The idea of holding onto an extracellular matrix is that you're holding onto the railing with one hand while holding onto your friend with the other hand. It gives you a sort of stability. Now, that's not the best metaphor, but it's a good one because this fascia is not static like a handrail. It is much more fluid, but it provides a lot of structure. It's kind of like the body's internal fabric. It provides structure, it allows transmission of force, and it houses sensory nerve endings because it effectively allows the body to tell where a tissue is being pulled in one direction or the other. And under normal conditions, fascia is going to glide smoothly over tendons, muscles, bones, you name it. It's going to be smooth movement. It's not going to be stiff and it's not going to be tight. It's going to be able to move to allow you to go through your normal range of motion. But when inflammation enters the picture, as we talked about before, the viscosity changes, the cellular communication changes, the biochemistry changes. And one of the things that this does is it makes collagen fibers, which are one of the principal parts of the extracellular matrix, begin to cross-link with each other and stiffen. The idea being, now that the body senses there's trauma, it's going to limit movement on a tissue level because it doesn't want to allow any further injury to happen to the muscles, nerves, bones, whatever. It's a little bit of an ingenious system if you think about it, because at the very tissue level, the body is saying, I'm going to find a way to slow down movement to prevent the chance of further injury. It's your body's way of trying to look out for you, because if you were out in the jungle, actually, let's say if you're out on the savannah, no, I use this one too much. Let's say, just for kicks and giggles, you're a Viking on a warship, and you jump right off that warship, and you're getting ready to go onto the main island to fight your other Viking opponents, and you land wrong and you fracture your ankle. Well, the very first thing your body's going to try and do is immobilize the ankle just like this. It's going to say, yeah, you fractured your ankle. We ain't going to battle, my friend. We're going to be sitting back in the boat, rowing back across in victory or defeat one way or the other. But the bottom line is, you ain't moving us no more. And the idea is, over the coming months and weeks, if you survive, the immobilization allows the bone to knit back together and to heal as much as it can to get back to normal, instead of allowing all this free extra movement. So then bones get misaligned, muscles get further strained and torn. It's the idea of, if I just keep things from moving, hopefully they can heal a little bit better, is kind of the principle the body's operating on there. But this is also why after an injury, simple movements can feel tight, restricted, or stuck. It's because that body's saying, no, we shouldn't move, we should let things heal. Which, if you listen to the previous episode, you can see why isometrics are so important, because it drives the conversation between the muscles and the brain of, hey, how much can I move safely without further injuring thing, which drives that conversation, drives neurological, it drives enhanced neurological feedback into the area in order to get the muscles used to the idea of moving quicker. It also moves fluid, which helps drive down the viscosity, as we talked about before. Now, when inflammation sets in, it affects the fascia by altering the biochemistry of the extracellular matrix, which includes the collagen, which affects the space in between the cells. And one of the big things that changes is the hyaluronic acid, which is one of the key lubricants in fascia. You might also recognize that from a little bit of a cosmetic and plastic surgery sort of thing, where people get these injections in order to appear younger. Once you inject this acid, it lubricates the fascia and becomes thicker and stickier, which means it doesn't move as much, which can give you the impression of being younger or older, I guess. It depends on who you ask. But while this is going on, this increase of hyaluronic acid, fibroblasts are also navigating into the area, and they're not the brightest cells. They aren't going to be architects. They are not going to sit down and they're going to figure out how to repair a cathedral. These are these are cells that are doing their best to show up and just put out fires and to fix things as much as possible. They're not trying to do it in an elegant way. They're not trying to restore what once was there. They're just trying to fix it as fast as possible by laying down more collagen and increasing stiffness to prevent further injury. If you want to think about it that way, they're kind of like firefighters coming in and putting out a fire and then making sure that the area is safe. And then they're going to begin laying down, I guess you could say, like gravel or dirt or concrete in order to make a road next to where the fire happened transversible, but they're not really going to be interested to go in and try and fix the burnt house. They're going to make sure everything around the house is safe and that everything around the house is navigable, but they're not going to go in and try and fix the house. That's not their job. They're just going to make sure everything around the house can be driven around safely, and they're also going to try and maybe even board up the house a little bit to make sure no animals can get in or out. That's kind of what's going on here with the fibroblasts. They're laying down a ton of collagen, they're trying to restrict movement, they're trying to make the area a little bit safer and more stable. But they're not trying to go in there and fix what's happened. So you can imagine this increase of hyaluronic acid, which is increasing this, the thickness and viscosity and stickiness of the fascia. The fibroblasts laying down even more collagen. You're running into the problem where now viscosity increases, and the mechanical forces that are traveling through the tissue are getting dissipated a little bit more. And also with that thickness and that stickiness, it's going to take a lot more energy for those muscles to fiber to go through a motion in order to complete a task, because now it's not the tissue is not as efficient. So the brain's going to be confused when it goes to complete a task it knows that it's been able to do, such as kicking the leg straight, but it takes 25 to 33% more energy to complete that task because of how viscous the fluid is around the knee and how much more energy is required to kick the leg straight because the muscles are not as efficient because all the connective tissue that's being laid down around them is restricting them, and all of the acid that is now around them is making everything thicker and stickier. It's like trying to kick underwater, and the brain is discovering this and it's saying, I don't understand why 48 hours ago I was able to kick my leg with ease, but now it feels like I'm literally kicking through water. So, in short, what that's causing is a communication crisis between the brain and the muscles and everything else, because now the brain is getting a lot more feedback. It's being told, hey, there's a lot of pressure, which is going to affect its sense to know balance. It's going to affect its ability to do anything coordinated that it was able to do before, and it's going to definitely affect strength output. So on the neurological side, physical therapists use soft tissue mobilization by going in there and using their hands to try and decrease the viscosity and stimulate the nervous system. That's one of the big things that sets it apart from massage. Massage is going there, it's going to make you feel better. They might address some trigger points or knots, but they're not trying to use massage to improve your functionality and your neurological situation by stimulating it. They're just trying to make the tissue feel better for you. Physical therapy is going in there with soft tissue mobilization, trying to drive a neurological conversation between your muscles and the brain. The manual pressure is going to activate mechanoreceptors, which is going to send signals to the spinal cord and ultimately the brain saying, hey, this muscle, it's not traumatized. It's okay to stop sending signals telling it to contract, to be stiff, to protect whatever it is you're trying to protect. You can relax. And that takes a while. But the fact that you're going in with the intent and purpose of trying to stimulate a neurological conversation by using pressure to force mechanoreceptors, which are a type of nerve, to do this is the intent. And so from a neurological standpoint, what you're doing is you're trying to modulate pain, reduce protective muscle guarding, and normalize what we call tone, which is the tightness of the muscles. It's like the physical therapist is trying to use their hands to tell the patient's brain, it's okay to move this muscle again. And that's one of the reasons why, side note, I think a lot of people talk about energy transfer and vibes. It's not an energy transfer. It's not a vibe. It's a simple conversation going between the nerves and the brain where another human being is coming in and adding pressure in a meaningful and targeted way to tell the muscles, hey, it's okay. You've been traumatized. You're tight, but this is not painful. It's time for you to release a little bit and let the body get back to doing what it needs to do. And the brain, the patient's brain, interprets this as, oh yeah, this is okay. I should be letting it go. And I should be letting it move. This muscle group is not traumatized. And so it stops sending a contraction signal, which, by the way, takes a lot of energy for it to do. So that's one of the reasons why I think you hear people talk about energy and vibes, and it's not really that. I mean, I guess you could say it's energy because you're making the patient use less energy to contract their legs, but the truth is you're just driving a conversation that should be going on inside the patient's body on its own, but it hasn't happened yet. But what does that sound like? Wow. The patient will be like, wow, my hip feels like it moves so much better. My knee feels like it moves so much better. My shoulder's finally free to move the way that it used to. That's the sort of thing you hear after you do soft tissue mobilization because you're driving that neurological conversation. And one of the other things you're doing, which I have to study more of, is by going in and moving the tissue and moving the fluid around and reducing the viscosity, you might be also doing a little bit of heat transfer because of the friction, depending on how long you're going in there. And as we all know, increased heat makes liquids a little bit more viscous, which increases the flow, which means a little bit less pressure going on. But basically what you're doing with your hands as a physical therapist with soft tissue mobilization is trying to go in there and get things back to normal. You're trying to get the viscosity to go down. You're trying to get those nerves to be able to have the conversations they used to be able to have. And you're trying to help the brain remap the body region to say, this muscle's fine, relax it. This muscle's fine, relax it. This muscle, oh, this one's not okay. All right, that's where your focus can be, but you can let everything else relax. You're basically just providing more input to the brain in a way that helps it be more efficient in protecting itself. So restoring tissue glide and viscosity. The goal of soft tissue mobilization is to restore the glide, is to make those layers of fascia and muscle glide over each other again. And this is done by gentle, consistent mechanical pressure combined with movement that helps realign the collagen fibers in the direction of stress. Because when those fibroblasts are going in there, just throwing down collagen in every direction, um, those fibers need to be put under tension in order to respond in the correct direction of stress, and instead of just creating a giant mass of collagen in the middle of nowhere where it's not really needed and it restricts future movement. It also helps redistribute interstitial fluid, which, like I said earlier, is going to reduce that viscosity. And it's going to improve local circulation and lymphatic drainage, which again is just getting some of that interstitial fluid pumped back into the lymphatic system so it can effectively drain, which would again reduce the viscosity. It's kind of like going in and moving stagnant water, getting things to flow again, and then also realigning on a cellular, or I guess extracellular level, the collagen fibers to get used to the idea of accepting stress in all directions so there's no adhesive issues there. So over time, this should improve the environment for healing cells like the fibroblasts to respond to the tension through the collagen they're laying down, and then pay attention to, oh, okay, I can expect the body to be stressed in this direction, not the other 5 directions I was afraid it might have been stressed in. I'm going to focus on making sure the collagen fibers are laid down in this direction. And then when the physical therapist is going in there and doing the mobilization, and they're putting these brand new collagen fibers under stress, they're trying to prevent the chance of any additional cross bridging going on, which will restrict future movement. And the idea is also that you're going in there to reduce tension on the pain sensitive structures. And again, just reduce the muscle tones. That way, less feedback is going to the brain saying everything should be locked up and tightened. Now, the next step to this is obviously combining soft tissue mobilization with exercise, because manual therapy alone is great, but is never the answer. A physical therapist should never just do manual therapy for 45 minutes and send someone home. It should always be manual therapy is used as a tool to go in, drive down the viscosity, reduce the muscles, increase the active range of motion, drive up the efficiency of the neurological conversation the brain is having with its own muscles, and then get it to do purposeful movement. That's where the magic happens. Because after restoring the glide, reducing tension, and then performing, for example, light holds or controlled drills, that's when the nervous system is going to really pick up that, oh, wait a minute, I can move like this again. The brain has to be taught, it has to be proved to it that it can move this way again. And that's what manual therapy does. Manual therapy goes in there and reduces the difficulty and the amount of energy it would take to move, and it tries to set the muscles and the tissue back as much as it can to normal. And then once you introduce movement, the brain is going to understand that it can accomplish the tasks it used to do, albeit with more energy and a lot more focus. So effectively what you're talking about here is nervous system retraining. And that's why in physical therapy, you almost always see someone do manual therapy first, because they want to immediately follow it up with activation of the muscles and to help the body relearn how to move. This isn't always the case. I know I personally will do manual therapy at the end of some sessions, but there's an intent to this. A lot of the times it's because I've been seeing this patient for a long time and I'm trying to show them the importance of stretching. So a lot of times a patient will walk in and say, oh yeah, the outside of my ankles is really, really sore and really, really hurts. So I'll have them go through their normal warm-up drills. Yeah, it really hurts. And I'll say, okay, let's come over here. Let me show you something. And I'll have them stretch. I'll go in, I'll release the tension of whatever muscle group, and I'll have them go back. Oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I'm like, right. Remember when I told you that your home exercises are important? You need to be stretching and working this tissue? Yeah. Well, have you been? No. Well, then this is what's going to happen. You're going to have pain until you finally do your homework. That's definitely a tool physical therapists to use, where it's, all right, I can tell you're not doing the things you're supposed to be doing at home. I'm not going to give you the manual therapy up front. You're going to go through your actions. I'm going to teach you and your brain that in order to solve this issue, you have to do these things. I'm definitely guilty of that, and I definitely pull it out every single time a patient says they haven't done their homework for like a week and they're not getting better and they don't know why. So soft tissue mobilization opens the door, but exercise is what teaches the body how to walk through it. And so finally, the practical applications, right, is in the early phases of any sort of trauma, the physical therapist is going to go in there and try and do myofascial release and encourage fluid drainage by reduce the sensitivity to surrounding areas. So they're trying to go in there and increase the viscosity. They're trying to couple the manual therapy with isometric contractions to drain more fluid, to decrease viscosity, to increase the neurological conversation of, hey, can I recruit this muscle with the same nerves that I was firing before? Or do I need more? In the mid phase, you're looking at more like maybe doing some deeper soft tissue mobilization, perhaps some cupping, maybe some instrument assisted mobilizations in order to restore glide and omnidirectional movement to the tissues to normalize tension. So now the biofeedback from that muscle isn't inhibiting the brain. The brain is like, oh, I know I can move this the way that I want to move it in any direction. I don't have that sensation of tightness and stickiness and sluggishness. I just have that sense of, okay, my tissues are healing, my quad is healing, and I have to get that stronger. So I'm not limited by that sensation of stickiness and sluggishness. I'm just limited by knowing that I'm weaker and I have to strengthen. And then finally, in the late phase, it's phasing from let me go in there and work on it for you to release all that tension. It's more, all right, now you as the person has to do the dynamic stretching, the loading, the soft tissue mobilization on yourself, and the stretching in order to maintain all of that movement and all of that tissue normalcy that the physical therapist has helped you achieve. Now it's, all right, the training wheels are off. Can you as a human being maintain this on your own? But the goal that you arrive at is hopefully you've created a healthier tissue that is allowed to accept mechanical stimulus, and you have the neurological conversation that's been driven between your muscle and the brain in order to get back to normal activity. So today we took a look at how inflammation changes the fascia, that it affects nerve signaling and muscle coordination, and how soft tissue mobilization done by a physical therapist can help restore fluid movement and communication in the neurological system in order to get back to healthy and normal movement. In the next episode, and the final episode, we'll connect the dots and we'll look at how inflammation affects the nerves directly, how the inflamed nerves behave differently, how that impacts pain, and how physical therapy can intervene and help calm down and restore normal nerve activation. So thank you for tuning in. Again, I'm your host, Dr. H. Please let me know what you guys thought of this episode in the comments and description, or the comments section. Please don't forget to check out the descriptions for, again, the shop, the 15% off, the 10,000. And everybody stay healthy, stay fit, and stay awesome. And again, thank you for being here, and thank you for coming through this episode with me. I'm coming through a cold, so I know that this probably wasn't the most coherent episode or the easiest one to understand, but thanks for bearing through it with me. I'll catch you guys all in the next episode.